So here's the deal. I've got I don't know that you're a subscriber, but at least a common viewer and often commenter is what I should say on my videos. Don't know how to pronounce it, but it's something like Zinta Lilaus. Let's just go with that. And often Zinta Lilaus often fundamentally disagrees with my perspective. We're known for disagreeing. What I like in any person is knowing, despite fundamentally disagreeing on certain things and values and perspectives, that we can find out what we do agree on. So I like this comment because it makes me feel like, okay, Zinta Lilaus and I don't have to always be arch nemesis, but we can actually kind of see things the same way. So here it is. On a video I made called Envying Bald Buzzcut Men at Which, that was the video. Here's an excerpt of what he said. Quote, as a person with significant hair loss, just making sure that wasn't like something weird in the dumpster. It's not. As a person with significant hair loss who doesn't buzz it completely off, I've recently come to the conclusion that shaving hair off or buzzing it down to a stubble just to mask hair loss could be considered a sign of insecurity rather than embracing it. It could be considered a modern equivalent of a comb-over, end quote. Now, I'm not here to say that I definitely agree with that, but I'm here to say that I definitely appreciate that. I think that's a new perspective for me. Of the well over 1,000 videos I've made, I've never considered that. I've talked about how if you have hair as long as mine, you comb it over it, to hide your temples, it could kind of come across that way. But as far as the concept of buzzing it off as a form of a modern comb over, because that masks kind of the hairline or greatly downplays it, and I've never thought about that concept, and I can totally understand where you're coming from on that. I think there's some truth in it, and I think you're onto something. I really do. It makes a lot of sense, because even recently, I heard somebody say, well, he's been shaving his head so long. He's shaved as long as I've known him. I really don't know how much hair he has. Well, for someone like me who's paying a lot more attention to it, I know even if someone shaves their head down to the skin, I can tell if it's a Norwood 4 or 5 or 3 or whatever it is. I can tell. I look for that. But most people aren't paying attention. Most people are looking at it from across the room, and all they say, oh yeah, he's the guy that shaves his head. So they don't really care about that. But yeah, masking it, yeah. I mean, and fundamentally that it could be a modern version of a comb over. Man, I like this comment. But let's toss this back to the audience. What do we think about this? What do we think about this? Let me read this one more time and then leave comments, because I want to further discuss this, but I want to hear what you have to say about it. So he said this: as a person with significant hair loss who doesn't buzz it completely off, I've recently come to a conclusion that shaving hair off or buzzing it down to a stubble just to mask hair loss could be considered a sign of insecurity rather than embracing it. It could be considered a modern equivalent of a comb over, end quote. So again, I think there's a lot of truth in that concept, in that theory. The only thing that I would struggle with is that it could be considered a sign of insecurity because I don't see it that way. I don't see it as insecurity, because that's to imply that you'd have to go with the Bozo the Clown haircut to prove how not insecure you are. So that's the part that I don't agree with, but overall I get the general concept. But because the way I see it, there's confidence in embracing it and shaving it off, not to mask it, not that you're doing it for that reason, but more so just because it looks better and cleaner, in my opinion. But it all depends on how much hair loss we're talking about. Are we talking about Kevin Malone from The Office, or are we talking about, a Norwood? Are we talking about Bruce Willis in the first Die Hard? I mean, I guess it depends on the motive, but ultimately, in the end, the motive probably matters less than the perception of how people see you. If they see you as a confident man with a shaved head or not, ultimately that level of confidence is what people look at. But But there is something to be said about that clean look. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm giving too many opinions on this. I want you to give your opinion and not let me influence you too much. I just want to host the conversation. So, get to commenting right now.